Hi everyone, my name is Holly and welcome to my very first wrap up of the year where we will also be flipping some books around today. If you haven't seen my last video where I flipped all of my unread books around, what are you doing? Go watch that video, I highly recommend, so you know what's going on right now. You might be very confused. I'll link that video down below, but it is my mission to color my bookshelves back in, make them normal again, plus I have to read 82 books for my Goodreads reading challenge, so hopefully we will be flipping 82 books this year. And I'll be honest, I mostly want to focus on these shelves behind me, which are in all of my videos, because man, this bothers me. So I will be talking about 7 books today. We'll be flipping about 5, which is exciting, and I have 1 DNF, so let's go ahead and get started. The first book I have here is The Last Mile in Cinder City by Luke Arnold, and this is a new urban fantasy that is coming out at the end of February. It's actually written by a famous actor, which is super rad. Luke Arnold played a role in the TV series Black Sails. Even more rad when he followed me on Twitter. I might have fangirled there a little bit. So I have another video game comparison for you here, and this book is literally The Wolf Among Us meets LA Noire. It's extremely similar in the tone and environment. Luke Arnold delivers such a well-written adventure with an added dose of stylish noir presentation. We're following Fetch Phillips, who is a mercenary with a colorful past, and he is running from one job to another, pretty much whoever rings the bell. Fetch has such a great character introduction. He is so funny, and it's kind of brutal in a way, and it's so mysterious in all the best ways possible. It's set in a pretty grimy place called Cinder City, where all kinds of magical creatures live amongst each other, including humans, but unfortunately a catastrophic event called the Coda happened, where all magic ceased to exist. It just completely stopped, which led to a good chunk of the people dead. A ton of people went cold and hungry in their homes. Elves are aging quicker, vampires die faster, and dragons are falling from the sky. And even werewolves in this, they are now deformed. When the magic stopped, they were transitioning to human, but now they're like all disfigured. It's sobering, it's sad, and it's really intense. Basically, Fetch is tasked to find a missing vampire, and every single clue and scenario that Fetch is brought up against brings us to so many different locations in such a short amount of time. The pace is functional, simple, and very satisfying. The story is constantly moving. What Luke Arnold brings to the table is just a perfect injection of detective work, which is why I'm comparing this to LA Noire. There are some slower flashback chapters which are absolutely necessary for the story to evolve. If this first book is any indication to what the rest of the series is going to bring, which by the way, I thought this was a standalone, there's going to be a book 2, which I'm so hyped for, then this is going to be delicious. I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. I highly recommend it. Be sure to look out for it when it comes out. Now let's go flip it. Up next, I actually have a trio here, and that is the Coven series by R.A. Salvatore, which includes Child of a Mad God, which is book 1, Reckoning of Fallen Gods, which is book 2, and Song of the Risen God, which is book 3. So, this is an adult fantasy trilogy. I believe it's a trilogy, but then again, the 3rd book does end on a cliffhanger. So I don't know what's going on, but I'm not going to talk about this series too much because I have an entire separate video where I went way more in depth about my feelings, and also another video game comparison, Skyrim. So if you want to know why I'm comparing this to Skyrim, go watch that video. It's short and sweet, and I think you'll enjoy it. Each book managed to build upon all of the foundation of the story in book 1. It's very malicious and very brutal. Many trigger warnings, including torture and rape, so please keep that in mind. Aolin, our main character, is this feisty, 5-foot, curvy young girl who is plopped in the middle of this savage tribe who basically wreak mayhem all across the mountain range that they live on. It's great, but it's so much more than that. Book 2 opens up the world tenfold, and it has one of the most intense endings I have ever read. Also, you can definitely start here if you have never read from R.A. Salvatore. I know he has so many books, but you can definitely start here. So I ended up giving Child of a Mad God 4.5 out of 5 stars, Reckoning of Fallen Gods 4 out of 5 stars, and Song of the Risen God, not sure if it's the conclusion or not, but I ended up giving it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Now this part's going to be satisfying. Let's go flip these. Up next is a book that I do not have a physical copy of, but that is The Bards Blade by Brian D. Anderson, and trust me, once I get a physical copy, we will be turning around on my shelves because I desperately want a finished copy. This is a book that released in January, and it's kind of a portal fantasy in a way. We're introduced to our two main characters pretty quickly. The first one is a daughter of a winemaker, and then we have her lover, who is one of the best bards known in the land. That's right, music plays a huge part in this story, which is why it's part of the title. The story begins with these characters very much enjoying themselves in this village that they live in, and to be honest, the liveliness of this village kind of reminded me of the Shire. There's a festival going on, it's very green, there's little creeks going through it, it's all happy times. But the land is surrounded by a magical barrier, and rumor has it if you go past this barrier, you'll be lost forever. What the people believe is that this barrier is what protects the land from the evil that is outside of it. And of course, our characters do find out for themselves what may or may not lurk behind this barrier when a stranger comes through with very heavy news. This book had absolutely wonderful world building, and it had such great fantastical elements too. Some of the greatest elements was the magic and the mystery behind it all. Also, this story really heavily focuses on religion. It's what is known as the Kyler into this world, and it really affects many people in both good ways and bad ways. Mostly bad. We really delve into that deep within the story. Also, I didn't realize this, but this book relies heavily on a romantic plotline. Not saying that's a negative thing, but it definitely caught me off guard. This book is an incredibly light read. I think it's perfect for people who aren't used to the fantasy genre. It kind of reads like a YA fantasy. So if you're looking for that, I highly recommend, especially if you're looking for something easy and quick and addictive. An easy 4 out of 5 stars for me, and I can't wait to read the sequel, which comes out later this year actually, so he's a fast writer. Up next, I have Scavenging the Stars by Tara Smith. This is the beautiful Outcry edition, which, by the way, I love so much more than the original cover. This is a gingerbread retelling of the Count of Monte Cristo. Now, I don't really know much at all about the Count of Monte Cristo, so I did go into this with very minimal knowledge of it, but I still thoroughly enjoyed it and I felt comfortable reading it. We're following a young girl named Omea, and she has worked on this debtorship for years. She's trying to work off the debt of her parents, which is very common in this world. She's oh so close to fulfilling that debt when suddenly she sees a man drowning in the water named Boone, and she saves him, but it honestly causes her so much more trouble than she thought. We're also following a second character in this named Ko, and I really want to mention that he is bisexual, and he is a retired gambler and his family's wealth is collapsing. I typically find books that are centered on the ocean, ships, pirates, islands, basically anything nautical hard for me to get into for some reason. Maybe because I find the ocean absolutely terrifying, even though I really find the deep ocean interesting. I don't know, but I did enjoy this. We got to see blue lagoons, hidden caves, underwater reefs, and poisonous fish. I love the details. This is to say that all of those details were the first 30% of the book, which is actually the part that I enjoyed the most. But I did begin to get a little bit restless and bored after that. This is purely a revenge story at its heart, but I do have one confusion. This isn't a fantasy. There is nothing fantasy about this, nothing magical at all. In fact, at one point I had to actually check the label and make sure that it was labeled as a fantasy, and it is, but it's pretty much just like a historical retelling of Count of Monte Cristo, with the murders and mystery and drama. So if you're looking for a YA version of that, then maybe this one is for you, but don't go into this looking for anything outside of reality. I ended up giving this one 3 out of 5 stars, but it's one of those 3 stars where I want to keep the book, so let's go flip it. Up next, I read The Valiant by Leslie Livingston. This was a total random read, but I was behind on my Goodreads challenge. I was 2 books behind actually, and it kind of made me panic. So I wanted something very quick and easy to read, and I saw this, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna read you. And it was actually a really great choice. This is following a character named Fallon, and she is the daughter of a Celtic king. She's trained in the art of war, but she's always longed for the day when she is finally part of her father's war band. But on the eve that she expects that delicious announcement, she ends up getting forced into an engagement. This leads Fallon running away, and events lead her to becoming a gladiator. I really enjoyed getting a perspective of Rome as an outsider. The author blends history in the story very well, especially the portion where women were gladiators back then, which has been proven, and I love how she toys with that idea. Given how the story began, I really wasn't sure where this book was going to go, especially because it really relies on a romance in the beginning, and when the romance is revealed even more later on, I actually found it to be a big downer. Also, I feel like a lot of this book is narrated like the reader is already supposed to know a lot of information. Like the very beginning, we are introduced to this character that does something absolutely horrific, and it's just never explained properly. I don't know, I really can't decide if I want to continue the series or not. I'm kind of leaning toward no, to the fact that I will not be flipping this book around because I think I will be unhauling this one. I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars, but I do not see myself rereading it. I enjoyed it, don't get me wrong, but it's not something that I want to keep on my shelves. The final book I'm going to talk about really quickly is the DNF, and that was Rogue Princess by B.R. Myers. This is a gender-bent Cinderella retelling. It's a sci-fi YA, and it's extremely similar to Cinder, which I actually loved, but I read 52 pages of this and I was over it pretty quickly. I read it for the cover, to be honest, and I just should have known it wasn't going to be for me. I could just immediately tell that this wasn't going to be something special. I was never invested in the story, and there was nothing to keep me motivated to pick it up. Alrighty, so those are all the books that I read recently. Tell me down below some of the books that you read because I would love to know. Go ahead and give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed because it helps me out so much. Go ahead and subscribe. I upload videos every single week. Follow me on Instagram at Holly Hearts Books and on Twitter at Holly Niece. And until we meet again, happy reading.